Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today I'm going to talk about a documentary that I found on iTunes. It's called Gangster Jihadi. It comes from Australia, and some of the things in it I just find really bizarre and disturbing. I think it predates my birth. But there's a ongoing, what would you call it, I guess current affairs documentary show. I think it goes for about an hour, called Four Corners. As a small child, I grew up periodically seeing Four Corners. It was typically shown on television after my bedtime. So it was usually when I was feeling a little sick or just wandered out bleary-eyed to see what my parents were watching, and then was swiftly put back to bed. But the thing that strikes me about Four Corners is that it typically represented a kind of vanguard of Australian intellectual perspective. It typically uncovered various things. It was involved with, I remember Goanna, which was Kerry Packer. Kerry Packer is like the other Rupert Murdoch in Australia who's now dead. His claim to fame was that in the year they started taxing us for university education, the HEX tax, he only paid $30 in tax. And this guy is a multi-billionaire who basically was on par with Murdoch before Murdoch bought, Fox and left Australia and did all that stuff. So Four Corners historically has been a show that did really interesting investigative journalism and broke stories and these kind of things. And watching Gangster Jihadi, the whole thing is just ridiculous. I mean, the whole concept behind this documentary is that you have this fellow who goes off to fight in Syria, but he's got strange connections in Australia to a murder, and there's this kind of tapestry of curious incidental characters, which are almost non sequiturs in the movement of this individual. And it's also very heavily authoritarianly narrated, where why would, seeing footage of countless Muslims being slaughtered, why might that affect someone who feels disenfranchised by living in Australia? All these kind of curious things, questions that answer themselves, but they just take them in a completely different direction because clearly they have their own narrative, which is vastly superior, I guess, to anything that seems immediately obvious to me. What I also found curious through it was that there was strange kind of elitism, strange kind of authoritarian elitism, which I guess is just the past 15 odd years I've been out of Australia, really 17 years I've been out of Australia now. And looking back on this thing, it just made me feel dirty. It just made me feel like this is representing the worst aspects of the country in which I was born, the worst aspects of kind of elitism, racism, national narrative of idiocy. I mean, it was all there played out perfectly in this documentary that I think I paid $19.99 for. $20 to watch this crap, which I now own. Well, I mean, what I can do is use it as an example and play it to folks that are interested in seeing what Australian journalism has become. But I realise watching it, this is my home country, and this is the kind of nonsense that I lived through when I was there. And I'm really very thankful I no longer live there. It's kind of horrendous to me, actually, to watch this stuff. Just think, where is the strong counter-narrative here? Where is the strong analysis and investigation? Instead, it's just a whole lot of sleazeball journalism with, innuendo and just nothing that can closely resemble any kind of logical discussion, just a whole lot of nonsense. I almost wanted the Stoner Sloth to appear through it. There were a few incidents where the Stoner Sloth could have appeared through this, because even that would have made more sense than the nonsense that was coming out of these police and royal commissioners and all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm so lucky to be out of Australia. I'd go nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, a brief reflection on a documentary that I saw that was absolutely horrible, but I now own. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.